The Jewish people, the Hebrew language, has several definitions for words, for a word. But for them, words carried great power, absolute great power. The word spoken was a power within itself. The Genesis story, God created the heavens and the earth with a word. But for them, words are not just words, an intangible thing. Words are, in fact, objects and things. And words carry their own power, and particularly if you think about the sticks and the stones and the words being things, that is absolutely true. How many times have you just blurted out something, not really intentionally, maybe not even really meaning it, and then no sooner was it gone from your lips that you thought to yourself, I wished I hadn't said that. I wished I hadn't said that. I wished I could get that back. Maybe you're like me, and at the end of the day, lying in bed at night, you replay the tape of what was said. Do you ever do that? And think to yourself, why did I say that? Words we just blurt out with no thought. Okay, well, I'll have to confess something to you. I was scarred when I was a teenager by my father. Because one day, probably getting ready for school, whatever, I don't even remember, my father said to me, well, do you like your hair better like that than the way they're wearing it this year? He had such a way with words. And I was just crushed. I thought my hair was great. But do you know what you say to teenagers? Have you ever thought of that? Things that you say to teenagers that they never get past? Well, I want you to know those words that he just blurted out, probably never knew what that meant. To this day, very often I think to myself, do I like my hair better this way than the way they're wearing it? Now, isn't that funny how one little thing that he said in my teenage years has never left me? Words that hurt. And then sometimes there are those words, those sticks and stones that we throw intentionally, and those are the worst. Those intentional stones that we throw out of anger and frustration. Those intentional things that we say that even later we wish we could get that back. Several years ago when I was preaching on this text, I talked about all these same things, the words that we say unintentionally, the words that we say intentionally harm, painful. And I will never forget that no sooner was the sermon open, a woman in the church came up to me with her teenage daughter, and she said, "Can we see you in your office after church?" And I said, "Absolutely." So as soon as we were done, we went back in the office, and they were in tears by the time I got in there. And I said, "Oh my goodness, what's wrong?" And they said, "You won't believe that on the way to church this morning, we had a terrible fight in the car. We said to each other some things that we can't take back. We can't ever get that back because now it's already been said. We said to each other some painful things out of anger. And we drove up to church and we sat in the pew. And what did you talk about but sticks and stones?" And they said, "We need to tell each other we're sorry. We need to ask forgiveness." And in my office, they asked forgiveness of each other. But you know what? The words were said. The stones had already been thrown. And the injury done. And then there are those words that are said Those words that have to be said, that cause irreversible harm and damage and pain. Those words you won't ever forget. Your child is dead. Divorce granted. Those words that won't ever go away, but have to be said. Words that hurt. The Bible is full of words that were hurtful and painful. Probably no more painful than Peter saying, "I didn't know him." Me? I never knew that man. I wonder how many times Peter wanted those words back. But they were gone. There's a great movie. I think I've talked about it before. A movie called Doubt. Do you know that movie? Starring Meryl Streep. And she is the head mistress at a Catholic school, the head nun. And the priest in that school, that parish, she accuses of sexual misconduct with one of the students. And the whole movie has to do with how she doggedly spreads rumors and hate and innuendos about this man. And there's one scene in the movie that someone is standing in a second or third story window and has a feather pillow. Have y'all seen this? Has a feather pillow, and they shake the pillow and all the feathers drift out. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of feathers drift out, and you see them blowing through the streets, and you see them blowing into other windows of houses, and you see them falling on the clothesline. All of those feathers, irretrievable, scattered, and gone. It's a powerful image of words that hurt. Irretrievable and scattered and gone. And you can't get them back. The first part of the book is words that hurt. But the good news of the gospel is we can also say words that heal. And those words are just as powerful, if not more. Next week we will talk about words that heal. And I hope, like me, that you'll pay more attention to your words this week. Amen and amen.